Just a quick introduction to say that you're going to hear two versions of a Prelude by Tárrega, one from 1971, a publication, edited, and the other in Tárrega's own hand from 1870, 101 years earlier, and then we're going to discuss them. Okay. There we go. Some of the notes are the same, some of the fingerings are the same, but many are different. So let's have a closer look. The publication is, you'll see it on your screen, is by, what's these names? Ganji and Carfagna, two editors, published by Bourbon in 1971. Now, they say that it's very hard to get hold of the earliest scores, and a lot of people have manuscripts collections that sometimes they allow access to, sometimes they don't, and we don't know whose hand these manuscripts were in that they used when they were making their edition. So what they have on the page might be exactly what was in a manuscript in Tárrega's hand. We don't know. It might have been someone else's hand. It might have just been someone playing it and remembering it or misremembering it. So there's a lot of questions about their edition. The other edition, you see it here, published by Brown Whitehouse, and it's a wonderful, big, heavy book. See me hold it up, this heavy, big, thick book. And it's a facsimile of the manuscripts. There are two books, a red book and a black book. The piece I'm playing comes from the red book. And that's Brian's done a wonderful job making a facsimile of that edition. And he's also written a book about the owner of the edition and his relationship with Tárrega. The old owner is Walter Leckie. I'll come to him later. But just let's have a look at some of the differences and some of the similarities. Now, the published version starts with closed chords, no open strings of these three chords. Okay. Now the manuscript version is much brighter, with two open strings there, sometimes one, that open E ringing throughout. Now this is important because we tend to think that Tárrega preferred inner strings, not the first string. He would prefer to play a melody here, or even here. But here he is enjoying the open ringing sound. Then, after that, both the manuscript and the publication agree with each other for this. And this glissando. And then, from here on, they differ again. We have 3 new chords. Again, the publication has them closed. While the manuscript version has a double glissando as well as the open strings. And that open E ringing out again. So that's quite different. And then they're the same. Now, 3 more chords, publication, a little bit flat there. I quite like that. It's a bit like the manuscript version where you have that open E string here. So by rights that should be in the should be in the manuscript version. But in the manuscript version, we have just 3 simple chords on the top 3 strings, B, A, and E. And then things change quite radically. The most surprising bit, in the publication, we've reached this chord. And then it goes to a first inversion E major with G sharp in the bass, up to a second inversion with B in the bass. So we've got G sharp, E, and B. There's a G sharp as well. Whereas in the manuscript, we have G natural. G natural, B flat, and E, where we're looking at a diminished type thing. And really, if you want an analysis of that, I could spend a while talking about it. I'll try not to. It's the dominant of the dominant with the dominant as a flat 9 of the dominant chord. So in the key of E, what's the dominant chord? B7. And what's the dominant of B? It's F sharp 7th. So if we add a 9th and then flatten the 9th, we get this. This is F sharp 7 flat 9, F sharp there, E, A sharp, C sharp, G natural. Now it would go to B normally. Yeah. We can, it's because it sounds like it's F sharp 7 flat 9, but it sounds like a diminished 7th. And diminished 7ths you can repeat every 3 frets. And go to B, yeah, or that kind of thing. But in the classical era, they very often put a chord in before the resolution to that tonic chord. 6/4 chord. Yeah, I said I wouldn't go on about it, but this chord, this is a 6/4 chord, and if I was doing an F sharp 7 flat 9 going to E, I'd have a B in the bass, so that makes it a 6/4 chord. And then the dominant B. So it's a way of just delaying that dominant a little bit. And that's what we get here. Yep. Okay, so it's a bit unusual, but there it is. Now, in the last bar, the publication is very simple. The dominant pentatonic. In the manuscript version, there's a lot of, looks a bit chaotic at first and takes a while to figure out. There are 6 beats instead of 4, and we don't want to make one another bar. That would be 9-bar composition. It'd unbalance it. So we got to make some editorial choices on this. I'll play exactly what's written. So that's 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have to squash that down to 4, and this is my compromise on that. Okay, but this is a lot different from the publication, and it's really quite nice. I love this. So there we go. So what do we learn from this? Well, it's always good to have the composer's own handwritten scores and see any changes or editing that he will do to his own score. Tárrega shows us every fingering, every string that is being played is notated, every fret number, and when there's bar chords and so on. It's very clear with glissandi, and there's so much information. It's almost like reading tablature. So that's fantastic, because every other publication we have, Tárrega's music, has been edited by an editor with maybe different criteria for editing. So I think it's really important that we study these manuscript sources. Now, the manuscripts don't contain the most famous pieces of Tárrega, but they do contain a lot of music, and if we study his fingering, then that will give us a bit of support for editing, making our own editions based on Tárrega's fingering, and spotting where things are questionable in other editions. Because there are a lot of editions of Tárrega's music out there with a lot of changes, I suspect, and they differ from each other. Now, we're hampered because we don't have, excuse my phone, we're hampered because we don't have all the original sources for all the pieces. It's a great shame. But this book of manuscript sources, the red book and the blue book, can give us a lot of information that we can use elsewhere. Now, just briefly, the manuscript is owned by the Lecky family, and it's always described by Brian Whitehouse as this English gentleman, doctor. And he was English, he was born in England, and he was a doctor, and he was a gentleman, so it's absolutely correct. But Walter Lecky is a very Scottish name, so I couldn't help but do a genealogical study on him online, and it didn't take long to figure out. His father was born in India, and Robert Lindsay Lecky, very, very Scottish name, and his father was born in Glasgow, and the family had been in Scotland for about 500 years. They came from the Normans, Dalek, with the Norman invasion in England, moved up, eventually settling in Scotland. 500 years, a long time. And I feel that there's still some Scottish attitude in Lecky. He was also, it's not all Scots are like this, it's not that all Scots are like this, but he was a very egotistical man. He wanted the attention of the room all the time. And you can see this photograph, which I found on the genealogical sites, with the Lecky family, in a garden with Tárrega, who looks somewhat exasperated. I might be reading too much into his features there, but there's this crazy Lecky family, egotistical, loud, 3 children, and there's poor Tárrega. I'm wondering when this photograph will be finished, and hopefully he can get some guitar playing done. But I say that's an interpretation that's open to question. But it's a wonderful photo. We can see Lecky's guitar a bit more. I mean, it's generally thought Lecky used a Lacotte, but I'm told that the bridge here doesn't look like a Lacotte bridge, so I'm no expert in that area. I'll leave that to others to fight out. So there we go. I hope you got something from that. Let me know. Bye.